Britain has one of the worst records on gender equality at work, according to a new report that highlighted the high pay gap for working mothers. 8% of men The Guardian surveyed said they would change their flight or complain if they found out they had a female pilot. In Fortune 500, a well-known list of the largest US industrial corporations, 2016 saw a very small percentage of female CEOs, with just 21 out of 500 corporations. Yes, 21 female CEOs. 2017 showing improvements, taking the amount up to 32, a mass improvement of 11. Women only represent 42% of the UK workforce and 55% of university graduates being female. However, women are still less likely than men to be associated with leadership positions in the UK. A good example of a male-dominated career is an astronaut. The first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova, revealed that the Soviet authorities thought it was too dangerous to send more female astronauts into orbit. It then took the authorities 19 years to send another woman into space, with many male astronauts trying to stop her because they supported that it is too dangerous for women to leave the Earth. Valentina Tereshkova then became the first woman to go into space on June 16, 1963. She completed 48 orbits of the Earth in a trip that lasted almost 3 days.
So in life, there are moments when you stop and ask yourself, how did I get here? Why am I standing here? Well, this is definitely one of those moments for me. And I find myself going back to the beginning, back to my roots. I was born to incredible parents, amazing parents who served as doctors in the Indian Army. I was the firstborn. My brother was born a few years later, and even then, nothing changed for me. We were both given equal opportunities. I don't think a lot of people might understand that being equal might seem very normal, but where I come from, India, and a lot of developing countries around the world, more often than not, this is an exception. It's actually a privilege. I was 7 or 8 years old when my parents started taking me on these visits in a traveling clinic. We were packed into this ambulance, and my parents would provide free medical care to people who couldn't afford it. But the more I went on these expeditions, the more I began to notice the simplest things that distinguished a boy from a girl, or a man from a woman. For example, girls were pulled out of school when they hit puberty because they were considered ready for marriage and babies. That's 12 and...
It is often seen as rude to just consider something of someone. It is strange to think that many girls are still being considered ready to have children, even if they themselves don't believe they are ready.
Yeah, so my name is Ellie Clark. I'm 23 years old. I previously worked in a 5-star hotel called One Aldwych, which is in Covent Garden. I was there for about 9 months and 2 different departments I worked when I was there. So when I first started, I started as a casual employee, which means it's a 0-hour contract. But then I spoke to my manager and said, I can't really rely on a casual contract for the rest of my life. I'm 22, I need to move out at some point. She said, I understand, but I don't know if we've got anything available. Then I spoke to my head waiter about it, because then my manager didn't actually tell me that they were looking for a full-time employee in the department, but they just wanted, basically it came down to the fact that they just wanted a man because they wanted someone to be able to lift the tables, so they didn't want to give it to me. When I found out about them wanting a man, etc., all of this, and then they were being really difficult about it, I changed departments because I also did some casual work in the restaurant there. It was the male colleagues that told me that they don't want me to have it because they want another man on the team, someone that's going to be able to help them lift the heavy tables and things like that. Even though at the time I was already doing full-time hours, but just on a casual contract. They never once gave me the opportunity to prove that I could lift the tables, so I don't know, because they would always say, no, we're the guys, we'll do it, you girls go and do something else. So in the first department it was quite small. And even though our manager was female, we didn't really work with her day to day that much. So it was a very, very male orientated department, even the conversations and everything was just all what is men based. And because it was very small, there wasn't, unless someone left, there wasn't any chance of progression. But as soon as I went into Indigo, the restaurant, they were giving me loads of training. I went in at a higher level than I was in MPD already, so that was already a promotion. And even though the manager was male, there was, in all the roles above me, there was at least one female in those roles, and they always gave me the same opportunities and training. And the only thing I would ever say is, if you were fighting to prove that, only do it to prove it to yourself and other women. Don't ever feel like you need to prove yourself to a man in the workplace that you are able to do things, because they should respect you regardless.